So first milestone achieved. Perfect. So basically, the idea of this, so to say, last presentation is to give you some guidance in order how to proceed with the very fruitful information that we just received earlier from our fellow presenters. So we covered a lot of topics, a lot of so to say tasks that need to be completed, a lot of decisions that have to be made, and I personally really like the idea of anchors because that's always a big headache if you don't have any constraints or if there is, let's say, too much degree of freedom. So therefore, it is important to start somewhere, and that's basically also the idea of ento-connect and why we founded it and what we are basically doing inside of this venture. Since we have a background in that industry, we know many of these aspects, we know many of the players, and so our motivation and objective of all this is, let's say, bring it together at the end of the day to get to a point where the industry can grow, can thrive. So we have also mentioned the amount of facilities that are up and running in operation. In comparison to the time frame that we are speaking of, the numbers should be higher, and so we see it as our task to contribute to that by connecting the players, and also, let's say, providing some assistance at some level to get things up and running. So basically, most of the key questions have already been addressed. To start very high level, you should check what are the constraints. And I also like the idea of Jonas, to speak about the motivation, because insects, it's a nice thing. So I think we all agree on that. Otherwise, we would not be in this webinar. But to speak about the personal motivation, is it a commercial motivation? Is it an environmental motivation? That might help in order to answer some of the questions. For example, if it's to close some gaps in the food chain, maybe you would go either in terms of mealworm than black soldier fly, because you can somehow bypass farmed animals in this case. So the list is relatively long of questions to answers, and for someone that is, let's say, new to the industry, some answers might be obvious, others might be not obvious. And since we had that conversations multiple times before, I think in a very, very early stage, and now I'm addressing really the people that are, let's say, not yet there or thinking of starting their business. So we can definitely assist here. So we briefly went through the planning phases, so no need for me to repeat that. So obviously, before starting something, a lot of planning is needed, depending on what kind of scale you are aiming for. So therefore, I would really like to stress the point of planning. Also from my background as an engineer, before you build a house, you consult your architect first, and therefore he will do all that stuff for you. And the same applies for insect projects or other industries or projects that have, let's say, this certain scale or that certain complexity at least. So basically, how can you practically start? So first would be obvious to register on our website. That's a quick one, so I can highly recommend that. I think most of the people that we have here are already registered. So then participate in the webinar. So you're on a good way. Yeah, since you are here, congratulations. You made the second milestone. And then what comes next? Well, that strongly depends. So we have been, let's say, speaking to many people, many companies, partners in the industry, in order to, let's say, define, so to say, products, services, whatever. And we try to work on, let's say, several modules that it could apply to you. So first one would be a starter workshop, means for interested people, organizations that have not been in touch yet with the insects, to cover the main aspects. The other thing would be, let's say, design and planning. So then obviously we go a little bit deeper, check what's already there, where are the gaps, following, let's say, good engineering practice, but also sharing our experience from the market, but also involving the people that we have here in the webinar, or our network, basically. So it's not a one or two man show in this case. The idea of, as I mentioned, of ento-connect is really to profit from the network. Then on the other end, there could be a kind of, let's say, pre-engineering. Pre-engineering means shaping the business case, making some first initial sketches how it can look like, and also to get to some first commercial numbers to check whether it makes sense in this specific case. And lastly, if you already have something and you would like to have someone that will have a closer look on what you're doing, getting some more feedback, a review of these documents like business plan, etc., it's also possible. So it's the same thing like you do with with the lawyers or tax people. So before doing some decisions that might cost a few euros, it's much easier to have someone from the outside having a brief look on what you're doing. And on the other hand, we fully understand that every approach, every project, in this case, it's completely unique. So therefore, we are also trying not to stress this let's say packages too much, but really offer something that is customized for the individual projects. And yeah, very quickly, that was my part. Since we are running out of time, I hope I was able to catch up a little bit, so we have some more time for the Q&As.